Did Oda just spoil us how to beat Emu? It turns out that teamwork makes the dream work, but not just any old teamwork, because it's starting to feel like Luffy's gonna need the help of some very specific characters if he's ever gonna finally land that final defeating blow on the king of the world. And I'm thinking this because of what I'm gonna call the Koko series of attacks. Ikoku, Hakoku, Hakkai, Gokoku. This series of combo attacks is showing up way too much in the story at this point just to be a coincidence. But not only that, I think it might also answer what exactly is so important and special about Elbaph itself. Because to be completely real with you, I've been a little bit confused about Emu and the Holy Knight's plan. They've said that whoever Elbaph sides with in the end is gonna determine the result of the final war, but so far that doesn't really make a lot of sense, at least to me. Not sure how you feel about it. I mean, other than Loki, the giants aren't really all that. Like, sure, an army of giants could wipe out a lot of fodder in the One Piece world, no doubt about that. But once you really get into characters with any real amount of strength, let's be real, size really doesn't matter. Something I do tell myself as well. I mean, Big Mom accidentally killed Jorul and a bunch of other giants when she was like 5. Dressrosa Luffy beat Hajrudin in like 1 hit, and Big H also struggled against Matchwise of Dofi's crew. And technically, Dorian Broggy kind of lost to Mr. 3, I guess. I mean, there was some foul play involved with all of that. So you're telling me that these are the guys who are going to determine the result of the final war with Shanks and Luffy and Buggy and Emu. Well, maybe not Buggy, but you get the idea. But what if Elbaph's true power has been lost to time, or at least to legend? Their current strength clearly just isn't what it used to be back in the first and second worlds, but that power might be about to finally come back. And I got here and I'm making this video because of the Koku attacks. Now, at first glance, you might be forgiven thinking that this is just a cool combo attack from Dorian Broggy, but now that we've had so many different variations, including one used directly on Emu by Luffy. How does Luffy know about this, by the way? Different question. I'm kind of starting to think that this attack is way more important than me or anyone else might have potentially thought, and that it might just hold a hint about how to actually beat Emu and who might have actually created this attack in the distant past. But let me give you a little bit of context first. Back during Little Garden, we got our first true taste of Elbaph's power with Dorian Broggy's signature attack, Hakoku. Written, by the way, in kanji as the kanji for ha for haki, like willpower, and koku is country. Like whenever you see koku, it's country. When the Island Eater Goldfish shows up to try and swallow the Going Merry, Dorian Broggy readied their weapons and unleashed this blasting cannon of a combined attack. And the resulting shockwave, or whatever this actually is, splits the Island Eater clean in half, or like shoots basically a hole through it, providing a clear path for the crew, blasting the ship through the fish. It was pretty sick, and an early taste of the true power that the Grand Line had actually to offer. Hakoku, by the way, translates roughly to warrior nation, or more like supremacy of the country. Now in the English dub, as you might know, it's called Gokoku Sovereignty, and the name of the attack seems to suggest not just the individual strength of the giants, but of the collected nation of Elbaph itself. It seems like all these attacks, all 3 of them, or 4 as we'll see, actually seem to talk about Elbaph as a country, and kind of as more people use them, escalate to bigger power of Elbaph unleashed. Now personally, I kind of want to point out that the word sovereignty, which I didn't even know was a real English word till this attack, is an interesting addition to the English name of the attack too, and we see it throughout the entire Koko series of attacks as well in the manga, but it's not part of the direct translation, and the Hakoku Warrior Nation part is kind of left completely untranslated. Now that word, sovereignty, implies a supreme power, authority, and even the concept of freedom itself, one of the series' primary themes that is soon into the fabric of Elbaph's signature attack. Though again, the literal Japanese translation with these 2 kanji would be supremacy of the nation, I guess, or sovereignty of the nation if you wanted to. But that freedom aspect isn't just the freedom of an individual, of course, but the unified power of the entire liberated nation. And what I want to share with you today is that I think personally it might be important that this is an attack that requires 2 people here, later 3 people, to pull off properly using their combined strength. Now, the giant warrior pirates are traditionally, going back like probably centuries, led by a duo. We learned this. Dory and Broggy aren't co-captains just because they couldn't decide who would be the better leader. No, this practice stretches back to the distant past, with the old warriors Jorul and Jorul being like the previous captains of the same crew. Now Loki and Hajrudin, if Hajrudin survives this. Even though Elbaph is this nation of prideful warriors, camaraderie and teamwork is at the core of its organizational structure and necessary to unleash its full power. I would argue it even seems to like tie back into Dory and Broggy's epithets a little bit, the red and blue ogres, which are based on the red and blue oni from a famous Japanese children's story. And it kind of makes me think of other Japanese mythological duos that are always tied together too. There are the 2 gods, Izanagi and Izanami, the progenitor gods. My Naruto fans will recognize those names from the Sharingan abilities. But this godly pair is central to the Japanese creation myth. They are the 2 gods that spawned the sun gods, Amaterasu and Susanoo, and so on and so forth. But then there are also the kami duos like Fujin and Raijin, right? The wind and the thunder gods that control storms. There are really tons of them, and all these pairs are very common, which means that Oda could be taking some actual mythological inspiration here. But not just from our world, I think that this mythological connection could very much extend to One Piece's own history and mythology as well. In the Oden flashback, the Sea Kings prophesize the meeting of the 2 sovereigns. There's that sovereign word again. Leader, right? It's a weird word. Like, I'm not a native English speaker, so I needed to look that up too. They do seem to be predicting the births of 2 important rulers here, one of which seems to be Shirahoshi, who, with the powers of Poseidon, can command the Sea Kings. But first of all, we don't know guaranteed that it is gonna be Shirahoshi, and even if it is, who is the other one? And how are they meant to work together? Like, is the other one Luffy, the next Joy Boy? But it didn't feel that way because they saw Luffy and they were not like, oh yeah, that's the guy. It could be Loki, the Prince of the Giants, if Shirahoshi is in fact Mosa, who he talks to through the Denden Mushi. It kind of seems to be heavily implied that Mosa is Shirahoshi, but could there be other character duos who are meant to pull their powers together to unlock their true combined strength? Like, think about it. What other characters do you feel like could bust out a Hakoku now that we've seen more and more combinations of characters using this very unique type of technique? I mean, it even kind of reminds me of how Roger and Garp teamed up on God Valley using the concept of Haki Mass to beat a Domyo Reversied Rocks. Remember that? Feels very similar even if the naming was different, or they didn't name it at all. Like, I thought for a while now that the secret to beating Emu, or at the very least parts of the Abyss, could actually be a team-up between Luffy and Blackbeard, right? Either before or after competing for the One Piece and fighting themselves. The successors of Joy Boy and Davy D. Jones, the king of the pirates and the king of the world, 2 sovereigns in their very own right, working together to defeat the world's ultimate evil, before then battling it out over the One Piece themselves, and maybe Blackbeard still being the ultimate villain of the story. I've actually previously speculated potentially that Luffy could fight Emu in like the real world, while Blackbeard uses his darkness powers to strike at Emu from within the Abyss. And that whole idea kind of course comes from some comments that Oda made about Film Red, where he said that something like its final villain taught Musica, and the way that it's been battled, right, exists in the real One Piece world, and he's excited to draw it. Now, in the movie, Todd Musica could only be defeated with Shanks and Luffy simultaneously attacking it in the dream world and the real world, respectively. And that same logic, I think, could still extend in the secret to beating Emu 2, attacking him in the 2 separate realms at once with a combined attack. Also, while we're on the topic of weird Oda comments, there's another recent one that makes me wonder about a team up between the Figureland brothers, because basically, when Shamrock was introduced in chapter 1138, Oda told his editor that he wouldn't be able to understand the significance of that scene unless he knew what the One Piece was. Yeah, that's something Oda actually said, and like, what could that even mean? Like, it kind of makes me wonder if Joy Boy had a brother during the Void Century, possibly even like someone like Emu or Davy Jones, like a twin, because honestly, I just have no idea what that editor comment could mean even after reading 1138 approximately a billion times. Could it mean that Shamrock's gonna switch sides at some point and we're gonna get a Figureland Hakoku? Like, I'd love to see that. It must mean that Shanks himself and in extension Shamrock too are like by themselves really tied to the One Piece, and this might also potentially explain why Shanks has kept his crew free of devil fruit users and hasn't eaten a fruit himself. Maybe he knows there's something about himself. Without him or without Shamrock, maybe no one else can actually claim the One Piece. Like, Luffy can't claim the One Piece without whatever is up with Shanks, basically. And to be fair, if, you know, Luffy and Blackbeard actually teamed up to take down Emu, and afterwards Shamrock is like, well, I'm gonna follow Blackbeard now, and Shanks is like, no, we're gonna make Luffy Pirate King, it could be that, you know, those two still choose a side, basically, and help whoever, you know, is on their side, either Blackbeard or Luffy, to find and use the One Piece. But whatever dynamic duos we're gonna get to see in the Final Saga, I'm more sure than ever at this point that the final battle isn't just gonna come down to Luffy's individual crazy physical strength, and one character that really makes me think this is actually Big Mom. You see, Big Mom has her own variation of Hakoku, a solo attack using Napoleon called Ikoku, which means mighty nation, or the might of the nation. Again, the nation probably being Elbaph. But Big Mom might be missing the point a little bit, or might just be missing a partner, because despite her insane strength and despite growing up for a whole while on Elbaph, I don't think she fully gets what Elbaph is all about, like, at all. With this technique, she's clearly trying to jack Elbaph's style, but she's kind of leaving out an important element here, because that's why hers was might of the country, but she's missing the warrior or supremacy hockey spirit of it. Elbaph is built on this culture of mutual respect between the giants, but when Big Mom does try to found her own nation, she doesn't have that. She leads her nation with an iron fist, with herself as the single authority at the top. She expresses these like lofty ambitions of unity and harmony and peace amongst the world's races, but in reality, her own children are absolutely terrified of her. And as we're seeing in the Elbaph arc, one of its central themes is the love that parents have for their children. The giant parents are risking everything to save Elbaph's future from the Holy Knights. It's kind of what Emu considers to be their biggest weakness that he's trying to exploit right now in order to bring them under his command. Big Mom, even though she really wanted the giants as well, which is why she was trying to set up Lola with Loki, right? Lola Loki would have been kind of cool too, like as a couple name. Kind of cool. Loki. Loki Lola, I don't know, kind of cool. But maybe that might actually speak for the fact that maybe Big Mom did know that, you know, she needed more allies, someone like Loki on her side, to use the full power of Elbaph, but didn't have access to it because the giants hated her. However, Big Mom treats her own children absolutely monstrously, even sucking out their souls on a whim. Like, she has unbelievable raw strength, but she doesn't embody what makes Elbaph as a nation truly powerful, and so Elbaph rejected her. I mean, obviously there was like the whole killing Jarul incident and eating Mother Caramel, but even after that, despite all of Big Mom's attempts, she was never able to reconcile with Elbaph, ever. Like, even though she tried and tried to bring a giant into a family, to bring their two nations together, it never worked, even when Loki apparently did genuinely fall in love with Lola at first sight at some point. I really kind of want to see that flashback now, actually, Loki meeting Lola. That would be kind of sick, knowing Loki now. But Lola kind of noped out of there. Maybe she saw the whole, I don't know, Nidhogg thing, and the whole wedding fell apart, and she going to Thriller Bark, obviously. She tried to switch out Chiffon for her, and Loki caught it immediately, souring relations between the two nations even more, which I also want some explanation, I guess, because like Elbaph doesn't really like Loki, or was that before they didn't like Loki? Maybe that was probably, I guess, before the entire King Harold assassination thing, where they blamed Loki for it, but still kind of weird. Like, they never super liked Loki, but apparently it was a big thing. Like, kind of like when you're like, oh, I really don't like this guy in my family, but only I can talk shit about them, you cannot do that. Kind of like that vibe, maybe. Also, I think, like, in general, I just want to say that part of me really hopes that these past events do get paid off at some point, now that we've actually met Loki and get all this stuff. Like, is he gonna have some beef with Gotti from Beige's crew for marrying Lola? But you're probably already yelling at your screen or typing some comments right now about the fact that Big Mom doesn't just use Ikoku, no, she also does use a combined version of that attack with Kaido. Yeah, you're absolutely right there. Big Mom and Kaido finally put their differences aside and use their own version of Dorian Broggy's Hakoku attack, but their version is called Hakai, and this version looks like this. It doesn't use the kanji for country or nation, like what I think is meaning to be Elbaph. They use the kanji for the ocean. And this version translates much more to conquest of the sea, or sea supremacy, because, they're the emperors of the sea, and neither of them is an Elbaph at that point. And it's also just a really clever name, because it also kind of combines the Japanese words for mother, Hahaoya, in the first part of Kaido's name. Oda wordplay at its best. And as some Dragon Ball fans or other anime fans might point out, this is the same word used for destruction, which in Japanese is Hakai. However, it's spelled with different kanji and has a different meaning, but still having a massive attack and calling it destruction or having it sound like destruction, kind of cool. And I do think that it's kind of cool with everything that we just talked about and Big Mom kind of misunderstanding the true power of Elbaph for such a long time. I think that right here, setting aside her alone going for the One Piece and teaming up with Kaido and the two of them being together we're gonna go for the One Piece, I think that shows that this kind of unlocks their combined attack in this very moment, which makes it more powerful on the meaning level too, because now both of them work together to reach their goal. And I think this could actually even lead to something where it might just not be possible to reach the One Piece alone. Maybe multiple people are actually gonna have to team up to use the One Piece to begin with. Again, the entire Shamrock Shanks situation. Maybe Luffy is gonna need Shanks in this connected, we need 3 or 4 people to do it at the same time in order to even deal with the One Piece to begin with. But of course, as powerful as it was that Big Mom and Kaido teamed up, was this attack already really reaching its full potential? Obviously, the two do have their history. Back in the day, they were really giving big sister, little brother vibes to a certain degree, even though the Rocks Pirates themselves were never super big on teamwork. Even though Rocks turned out to be a surprisingly nice guy, a lot of their crewmates were kind of always scheming against each other, especially Shiki. But by the time of the current story, it kind of felt like they'd grown apart quite a lot, honestly. But then they renewed their alliance and decided to team up. But if their bond was even stronger between them, would Zoro still have been able to partially block that attack at all? Would he have maybe straight up just died instead of just breaking a whole lot of bones? I think that if Big Mom and Kaido had had a Dory Broggy level bond, could this Hakai technique have been way more powerful? Together, they were already beyond formidable, but think about how they were actually defeated. And realistically, it was only because the Supernova were able to pull the old divide and conquer on them that they lost in the end to begin with. If they had stayed as a unit on top of the roof, would there have been any shot of Luffy, Kid, and Law winning this at all? I would say no. I mean, Big Mom was only defeated because Law and Kid did work together themselves. Individually, they probably would have had no shot of beating any of these emperors. But now, it's of course time for the new emperors to finally step into the spotlight, and I think that my original idea about Blackbeard and Luffy needing to combine their powers to stop Imu might have actually been a little bit off. You kind of see what I've been drifting towards. I might have been missing another piece here, because now that we've got the latest installment in the Koku line of attacks, we have 3 generals Gokoku Sovereignty. This time we have Gokoku, which is written like this. It's the kanji, it's 3 times the kanji for a car, if you're curious. It means to roar, to thunder, to reverberate. The verb actually is called todoroku, so todoroki, if you're curious, is the reverberation, the thundering, right? So basically it's the roaring or the thundering of a nation. But the phrase Gokoku also can refer to the protection of a nation, written a little bit differently. In Japan, there are so-called Gokoku shrines dedicated to those who died serving for protecting the country, which is probably why we're seeing this variation here in Elbaph as the giants fight to save their children from the Holy Knight. And interestingly, we've got an addition to the formula this time, because instead of just saying Gokoku, they've actually added the Sansho, 3 generals, to the beginning of the attack name too. Now, Hakoku was never called 2 generals Hakoku. This is the first one to introduce the elements in this name of generals per se. It's kind of like Oda is directly drawing attention to the number of people required to use this technique this time. It was first seen several chapters ago when members of the new Giant Warrior Pirates, Road, Gerd, and Goldberg, used it to take out some big MMA monsters. And if it was just that, I would have thought, oh, what a fun, cute little Easter egg. It's kind of like Hakoku, but this time with 3 people. But now, we've obviously got some of Elbaph's heaviest hitters using the exact same technique on Emu himself. This attack was just like so sick. I've now had some time obviously to put all my thoughts together about it, but if you want to hear my first like unfiltered reaction as soon as I read the chapter, you can head over to my Patreon where I give my initial thoughts on each chapter quickly before the full videos come out on Sunday and Tuesday. And in this attack, we have Loki and Luffy's combined strength. Very random that Luffy knows about this, but again, I don't think that Hajrudin is really that guy. I think we're still missing a piece. But that reminds me of Rox's old plan and how he begged and begged for King Harold to please join his crew. Rox, as you know, was looking for these two particular legendary devil fruits, and for quite a while I've imagined one of these fruits must be the Nidhogg fruit because one of them was the national treasure of Elbaph that he wanted Harold to eat, and it does tie it kind of into like the idea of only an ancient giant being able to tap into the full potential of the Nidhogg fruit since it scales with the size of its user. As for the second devil fruit, was it the Nika fruit? Maybe. The Rox seemed to not know about Nika when Loki mentioned the sun god. The best candidate I have right now is probably Blackbeard's darkness fruit since Teach was after it for so long, but maybe it was something else. But if Rox was looking for just two devil fruits, then maybe he was missing a decisive piece. Just like Luffy and Loki are probably missing a piece too, because they might need the correct 3 generals, and those could very well be Luffy, Loki, and Blackbeard. The power of the Nika, Nidhogg, and Darkness fruits all combined. And it'll get especially crazy if the Darkness fruit, which looked super similar to the Nika fruit, also turns out to be a secret mythical zone or something like that, like the Dozon fruit. Anyone? No? But this could also in a way explain why Elbaph seems so much weaker than it should be from anyone's expectations, especially Emu, right? Again, the Holy Knights are saying that whoever the Giants end up siding with will steer the entire course of the final war. But why? Well, maybe it's because Elbaph was always supposed to have 3 main rulers. Think about it, we've never really seen Elbaph with all 3 rulers in place, but if you take the king plus the 2 captains of the giant warrior pirates, that's essentially 3 leaders of the nation. Back in the day when Harold was king, he was out on all types of voyages away from Elbaph all the time, and the 2 leaders of the giant warrior pirates were stuck duking it out on Little Garden. Dory, Broggy, and Harold were never all on Elbaph together since their childhoods. And the village elders, Jarul and Jorul, were kind of leaders of sorts, but then Jorul was killed off by Big Mom, and now Elbaph's just been without a king and any proper leadership at all for many years. So maybe Elbaph was always meant to be a triumvirate, right? Like a political model with 3 central rulers, but it's just been missing some crucial pieces. I personally don't think it's any coincidence that Elbaph has 3 realms. There's the Heaven Realm, the Sun Realm, and the Underworld. The Underworld seems heavily connected to the Nidhogg, again thinking back to the tree, with Loki, the wielder of that power, being trapped there. And it kind of fits mythologically because in Norse mythology, obviously the Nidhogg dragon not on the world tree roots as well. The Sun Realm could be represented by Nika, actually, since it seems like Nika's mythology is so intrinsically tied to Elbaph specifically, and the mural is in the Sun Realm, you know, and where the laboratory is and all that stuff. As for the Heaven Realm, honestly, who knows? Like, I really need Oda to just finally show us what's up there already. Is that where my man Dozon lives? Will of Dozon? No? Dozon be no? Okay. So it could just be the case that a trio is actually needed to bring down Emu. A triad, right? Maybe that's why they lost the first time around anyways. Dozon, whoever he is, was killed, and Nika and Nidhogg together couldn't claim victory alone. Or, in the second world, there was maybe like this missing piece when Joy Boy and either Davy or Lily or like another unknown character was the missing link potentially. I'm just really wondering who exactly the 3 would be. Is it Luffy, Blackbeard, Loki? Or is there like another piece of the puzzle like Shanks or even Kobe required? Or maybe we're still thinking too small here, like if we have 1 general, 2 general, 3 generals, could it actually be 4 generals and we've got another evolution in the Ikoku, Hakoku, Gokoku formula? After all, there are 4 Yonko. Does Buggy need to get his hands on the ball too? And it's the combined efforts of Shanks, Blackbeard, Luffy, and Buggy? Or is it the 4 gods and we need the sun, earth, sea, and forest god powers combined together in an attack to defeat the devil? Either way, Luffy's gonna need some time to assemble this perfect matchup to like take down Imu, and he might just get some extra time because to me it looks like Elbaph is probably pointing towards another time skip. I'm kind of doubtful that this one attack is gonna be the end of Imu, and it looks like the Straw Hats are in for a loss here, so what will they be able to do to pick up the pieces afterwards and actually train for round 2? I've got a lot of thoughts about that one. Luckily, you can watch that right here. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Thanks again to our wonderful Patreons. You guys are the best. I can't express how much your support means to us, everyone on the team. Thank you so much if you're supporting us, and if not, go check it out. And I will see you in the next video.